When Lily Phillips laid up with 100 men in 14 hours, she regretted it and said so, but somehow wants to go up to 1,000 men. Now, what you need to know and notice about this is what her regret really is and what it isn't. The truth behind her regret reveals the only mistake I've ever heard accountable commentary or Edward Anderson make and many others like them. Lily Phillips sat up and said she felt like a robot and that she really regrets that the guys actually expected enough time to bust their nuts, and she wasn't given enough time per guy for that, so only Minutemen got that for which they traveled to her. She regrets that some tried to guilt trip her into going longer. So she offered what seemed to be a deal of, the free bump and grind, but the whole purpose of bumping and grinding was absent just so that she could be a loose and fallen woman at 23 years old. There's no sort of regret because she was unchaste or because it's nasty or unnatural. She regrets that she didn't plan it better, so she plans to do a hell of a lot more to try to reach 4 digits in February. She knows what she's doing. She's just mad that it was at more of a cost to her, and that's really about it. She's really just more so regretful that the guys actually said, wait a minute, what are you doing? The purpose has been removed. What's up with that? She's making herself intentionally, intimately useless to the men as either a plaything or a wife. She's making herself exactly the way that men don't find satisfaction. That's the whole goal. That's the reason. An intimate object that doesn't successfully drain the sack, whether you marry or commit to, or you just travel to hit that for her OnlyFans content. And either way, she's making herself useless. She cares nothing about her dad or any other man who raised or protected, and she cares nothing about some man she'll later ask to commit to her and marry her or otherwise take her seriously. She cares nothing about what a bad deal she is making herself to whoever this man will be, and she will ask some man later to take on this bad deal that she's becoming. So back to the one error that I heard Reverend Brother Pastor Deacon Dr. Hurricane Edward Allen Anderson and accountable commentary make. They say that these dames don't know and don't care what bros want. And this is in response to when others say that the sistren don't know what brothers want in the first place. The error of these two fiery preachers whose names I mentioned is that they say sisters don't care. Sisters know and they care. They care that they keep away what men want and offer only what we don't want. Now, the Western Wyatt, like Lily Phillips, will do the same thing to their own men at this point, and that's why they say to their men, I'm going to bang out this black man and you sit in the corner and watch while I tell you what you can't do that he can. Now, when I heard that some of the men were watching a genre of dirty films categorized on that basis, I knew exactly what it was. They wanted to see what their women want to say to them that they aren't saying in real life already. They want to know, well, what do they want to say that they haven't said yet because for whatever reason they feel uncomfortable. They want to see how their own women really view them if they would insist that they use their resources to take care of their Wyatt women, while then the Wyatt women turn and cheat on these providing husbands with the very men whom their granddads put in a position to be unwanted according to the rules of hypergamy. They want to see if these Wyatt women are aware enough to use us to further emasculate their own men the way that they're used to sisters doing to us behind closed doors with the Wyatt men to emasculate us. You see, Dawkins says these ladies know what their men want and they do care. They care to keep it away and deny it and to surround it with things that anyone would absolutely hate. And then to say that they have to do this because it's just how it is in real life. When the whole time they just artificially surrounded everything we like with some sure bit we hate because they hate us. Malice is the motive. Lily Phillips doesn't feel bad because of the immorality or the affront to nature itself. She feels bad because the guys dislike not having themselves drained, and after driving and traveling those distances, the whole purpose was defeated. And they called her on it. We understand Men do not travel or make any sacrifice that offering to men encounters that don't result in the emptying of the sack. That's not how we function, and a good man or a bad man won't do that. So she doesn't even feel bad about it. She feels bad because they put that on her and told her about her failure, which it is by her own admission and her own standards and frame of reference. They called her on that. She would have felt even worse if she had delivered, though, because then she would have felt cheaper than she already does and would not have withheld anything. You see, women like her in the West are obsessed with the withholding, as I have been describing. And the other thing is that she sat there and said, I don't know how many times, it's like. Well, that in and of itself is a red flag. And this gets to the other mistake. When someone talks like that, it means that this is not an adult talking. So how are they able to match with adults for reproductive opportunities? We men have not learned yet to look at these dames that talk like this as children undeserving of an OG, you know what I mean by that, or the reproductive opportunity from mature men. Her opportunity itself is proof of what I said before. We are guilty of being too easy. We're known for and we admit to being easier on the Westernisha than other Western men are. Everyone knows this about us. We know this about ourselves. And there are times when it's not true and we still think it is. Now, we're known for making some of these ladies nervous about disrespecting us while still not stuffing them in pieces in plastic bags for it either. We've always had this one medium level but insufficient reply to that disrespect. We're not completely pushovers, and we know the game is better than other men do according to these other men, but we don't go upside their heads and decapitate them either. We don't do what Louis Mangione did to the CEO for failing to pay for health care for insured patients. We instead decide we'll just walk away and free ourselves to the next available lady, but she's not going to be interested once we're available. But then we'll claim, like Leanna Lene claims, that she doesn't want another woman's man either. So if these Wyatt men are willing to drive and catch trains and planes to meet Lily and leave with the same blue balls, yeah, I guess they were too easy. And if they were, then what do you think we are? And how much worse is it that when we are not, we still think we are? At what point are we going to decide to stop being so available and easy to these dames that they can do 100 guys in a few hours and then don't have the decency to shut them out of the chances and opportunities? We, meaning we don't have the decency to shut them out of the chances and opportunities to go up to another 100, let alone 1,000. We shouldn't have supplied the first 100 to her, and look what we did. I won't blame the men who didn't show up, but the fact that 100 did isn't just about biology or nature, but how we're trained. We're taught to let them have full control over the bump and the grind without keeping any control for ourselves, and we think that we have control over marriage and commitment, and that's enough. No, it's not. Because they still have too much control over that. Don't believe me? Offer either one to a decent woman, she's already gotten it. And if she hasn't, she can't take you up on it if you're a complete stranger, otherwise she wouldn't be decent. So there is that control. Offer the drawers to a decent man and he's still available, even if it's only offered in the context of marriage, because he's still available to marry. They insist upon intimacy being only upon conditions we hate, while marriage is still on the conditions that they like and to which they agree. So take note of what it is that Lily regrets, and notice that when it comes to taking accountability, they only take accountability for one thing: Westernisha. Be she a Wyatt from the UK like Lily or a sister from Baltimore, only takes accountability sometimes for not being more difficult on us. And when I say us, I don't mean the stereotypical irresponsible shine with the stereotypical stats and jigaboo swagger. I mean the responsible, non-stereotypical brother. They act like they can't be hard enough on us and can't demand enough from us. They only feel guilty about whatever break they might give us. Then when it comes to the stereotype with some swag and tats, not so much substance though, they didn't feel guilty about not giving him enough of a break and asking for too much from him. They practice the whole breakaway from European materialism of which Dr. Umar Mungawa Johnson speaks, when they assess the tatted felony having swaggerillas, but not you or me, especially you. Westernisha only ever says she was wrong for not asking enough from you or not using enough from you to take care of the irresponsible, needy stereotype. Notice it is only then that she says she was wrong. And that tells you the evil of which she considers to be right. This is proof she believes you're the enemy. Notice Crystal Mangum. Notice Crystal Mangum's apology. She still claims that she did end Reginald Day out of self-defense, but she stabbed him in the back. And the reason, well, from what I can gather so far, but I can't yet prove or disprove, the story is our worst fear as red pill aware men. Years after lying on those guys, she was a single mom and Reginald took her in. She cheated and he discovered it, so he told her to leave the house and she stabbed him. Now, had he not expelled her, she would have stayed in his house, cheated some more, still deprived him, probably still kept disrespecting him until he stood up for himself one day, inevitably. Then she would have stuck a weapon in him for standing up for himself and not accepting a disrespect that day. So whenever he finally decided to not tolerate the disrespect was the day he was going to catch it. He was done in the moment he took her in, not when she began cheating. His acceptance of her under his roof was his death certificate. She was out there proving the red pill content true before the Matrix trilogy was done. She was not willing to give up her children as a single mom to their dad, but she was willing to give them up to the state in order to go and do time. There's nothing Reginald Day could have done to save his life except to just not deal with her or any other one like her, especially a Westernisha black single mom. Now she's apologizing for falsely accusing the lacrosse players, but still not for stabbing Reginald Day in the back after he took her in with a child by another man and she cheated on him, according to her own standards and definition of cheating. She's being a repentant slave, and that's why. She lied on Master's grandsons to get some money to be a more comfortable slave. She still didn't care she still does not care to this day what she did to Reginald Day, because he doesn't matter, because he's one of us. And by the way, I didn't look to prove that he was one of us until after I typed that last sentence. And then I discovered that he was, and a light-skinned brother at that, and nothing defective or crippled about him is what drove other women away from him. No, you see, this is back then that all this happened. She was already playing the game, and he already did not have any other option. And that's because that's how the game has been played for this long. He was already limited, not by anything defective or wrong. He was limited by his race and maybe his complexion within that race. If he'd been with a non-Keisha, like Accountable Commentary says, he probably still would have passed away, because your time is up when it's up. But not from him, not from her stabbing him, though. No. It would have taken something else. So Crystal Mangum knows that the Wyatt supremacy is real. She figured that she was convicted for Reginald Day only because she lied on the lacrosse players, and they just don't typically prosecute those types of lies. But she figured that if she apologized for her sins against Massa and his grandsons, then she'd be forgiven for taking out Reginald Day, because she knows that, frankly, the system doesn't really care about Day or her. She knows how their minds work, and she hopes the system will follow their mind at the expense of its own written code. She's already scheduled to get out in 2026, though. So maybe she did it to get an easier transition on the outside after her release. Whatever the case, she knew she had to apologize for lying on those boys at Duke, and didn't need to apologize for that knife in Day's back. Peep game, gentlemen. Start listening to the regret they express from now on, and listen to what they regret and take note of what they don't. Then you'll get it. Malice is their motive, and this is why militancy is my mantra. Since their preferences aren't just natural or biological or involuntary, and they're not independent of morality as they might claim, their preferences are actually against your preferences and are designed to uphold immorality. Their preferences do care about your preferences, gentlemen. They're intentionally against your preferences. Westernisha's preferences are both against your preferences and your morality. So keep your doors locked this winter, or you'll wind up like Reginald Day, because they cannot learn any moral lessons from someone they hate. I hope this helps. Thank you for listening, and as always, black heart, black mind, blackout, black heterosexual non-select male power, because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, with a phrase Jet Black's also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.